This build has started about 3 years ago. I wanted to see how difficult it is to create a building out of concrete. I have no footage on any of this, so it has to be a series of pictures, and most of them taken with a phone. The building I'm modeling is a station building called Have Class 3. The station building was designed by the Hungarian Railways in the pre-First World War era and was built and used by private railways, mostly on branch lines. 4 different designs existed depending on the traffic volume of the station. As I said, mine is a Class 3 building without the annex, which would be an open shelter for the passengers. Many of these buildings are still present. Some of them used as residential houses where the railway no longer exists. The mold was made of wood, basically an outer and an inner box, and all openings were wood blocks sandwiched in between the 2 boxes and secured to the outer box with screws from the outside. The assembly was straightforward. Filling up with concrete was also easy, just making sure that the concrete gets into the mold and not all over it. I stopped each time I reached the windows and the doors and shook the whole thing just to make sure that the concrete spreads even and there are no air pockets left behind. This is my son supervising the build. I could not wait until the concrete fully cured, so I started taking it apart the next day. The inner box was held in by friction, so it has to be wiggled out. The outer box came apart easily, side by side. The issue was with the wood blocks in the window and the door openings. I used oil as a release agent, but it did not help enough. I had to smash them out with a hammer, which took some of the concrete as well, and the structure started to crack. In retrospect, I should have waited until the concrete fully cured and also contracted a little. It may have separated from the mold on its own. Actually, the first one split in half and I almost gave up. But I cast another one, which was in one piece with some cracks here and there. This is why I decided to touch up with grout mix on the damaged areas. Still, I was a bit disappointed with the end result, and the empty shell was discarded in the back of the garden for about 2 or 3 years. It seems the weather has not made it worse, slightly sunk into the sand and collected pikes from the nearby pine tree, but nothing much else. That's when I decided to finish it. I was still not too happy with the building itself, and the walls were a little bit too thick and a bit too coarse in general. Therefore, I decided that it will be resurrected as a garden feature, hence the finish will not need to be up to the fine scale standards. I created windows and doors on the CNC out of plywood with a lot of layers of exterior paint and varnish. I started by cleaning the structure from dirt. I mixed more grout and started rendering the outside and hide the imperfection and the cracks. Some of the openings needed to be filling up as well. I used my wet hand to smooth out the surface. And finally, I applied white exterior paint in 2 layers. The roof is made of simple 1 by 5 centimeters pine boards resting on 2 rafters. The roof boards are pinned and glued to the rafters. Before I completed the roof, I glued the windows and the doors in place. They are made of 2 layers and the bottom layer sits on the inside of the concrete wall, plenty of gluing surface. Later I completed the second half of the roof. The roof pitch is less than 45 degrees, so I left with a shallow angle on the top. The kids occasionally came to help as well. By the way, the little guy you have seen earlier is now the taller one on this picture. I could not figure out how to complete the top of the roof. This was all done in our summer cottage and I had limited equipment. So I just put 2 more boards next to each other. I finished it with a reddish paint. I think I will get a piece of tin board, bend it in the required angle and nail it to the top of the boards. This is where I am at the moment. This all happened last summer, but the building looks exactly the same even today. I will need to finish the roof, but that is probably all. Maybe I will sacrifice a few garden lamps, mount the solar panels on the roof and put the LED inside for a night light. It was an interesting exercise, but I'm not sure I will make buildings out of concrete in the future. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.